What's the good word, everybody? It's PHNX Cardinals live on a Wednesday. I'm Johnny Venerable. He is Bo Brack. This is your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. Bo Brack got a big game at San Francisco this Sunday for our precious Redbirds. But I feel like not enough has been mentioned that just 24 hours after the fact, the Cardinals can make a decision. Maybe they've made it, maybe they haven't, on a certain franchise quarterback and the potential to welcome him back to the practice field for the first time since, I don't know, November, December of last year, meaning Kyler Murray is eligible to come off PUP following Sunday's contest.
Yeah, not just Kyler Murray, a couple other players that could help the Arizona Cardinals defensively on the offensive line, maybe add some depth there, but of course, the big one, Kyler Murray. We heard from the head coach, Jonathan Gannon, tried to pry some information from JG, but of course, he's not going to voluntarily just offer that up. Also, we talked to the guy filling in for Kyler Murray, and Joshua Dobbs, and how he's preparing potentially for the return of K1. So it's there, right? It should be secondary to the game because this team is coming off of a shocking upset of the Dallas Cowboys, and they're playing way better than anybody anticipated. And that should remain at the forefront of things in trying to prepare for this unbeaten 49ers team, because if anything is on your mind outside of competing each and every down against them, you're going to get your ass beat. So it's exciting, right, with Kyler Murray's return looming, but also the business on the field has to be taken care of before then. And I think that it's a fine line that the Cardinals are walking right now.
Isn't it ironic? Like, I'm a schmuck that said, it's going to hang over them, bring him back so you can avoid, winless season. You can avoid the quarterback saga of next April. Now it is a very different conversation. They have to balance whenever they activate him. And I do think, I don't have the source, just my opinion, I think they're going to activate him next week. And I think he's going to be back in the fold. But what does that look like when you've got somebody like Josh Dobbs playing well but needing reps, Bo Brack, with this offense, with this team, and doing a balancing act of K1, Josh Dobbs, co-number ones, right? And maybe it's a little bit like Clayton Tune and Josh Dobbs that first week of, Dobbs' arrival, right? It's going to be interesting to see how they manage that. Here's what's also interesting. They have a possibility here to set themselves up for success by winning one of these next two games. So I don't think it's realistic for Kyler Murray to play against the Bengals, even if he gets activated.
Mm-hmm.
I think you and I are on the same page with that. I think, their mindset should be, and I don't know if it is, multiple weeks of practice, whatever that looks like, right? Ramp up Kyler, which is why I think you're doing yourself a disservice by not activating him on Monday or Tuesday. However, if Joshua Dobbs can beat either the San Francisco 49ers or the Cincinnati Bengals, or let's just push it out a week, the LA Rams. If this team has 2, dare I say 3 wins by the time Kyler Murray comes back, not only does it enthuse this fan base about, adding Kyler to this puzzle offensively, I mean, you are in the playoff picture in the NFC. I don't care if people scoff at that, people want to laugh at that. That's a joke. I think everybody in this chat, we've got 83 like this video right now. Like, this team should be at minimum 2-1 right now. It could easily be 3-0. If they fall on their face these next 2 weeks and they say, no, this is the team everybody thought, they're 1-5, 1-6, whatever, then we're having a different conversation. I'm only going off of the information, Bo Brack, that this team has presented me each of these first 3 weeks. And that is, they are competitive enough to hang with the best teams, the average teams in the NFC. Will you insert Kyler Murray into that equation? And maybe it's not fair to K1 saying we have aspirations to do X, Y, and Z. But I'm going to tell you right now, go and find the photo of Kyler Murray in the locker room following Sunday's win and tell me that's not somebody that is scratching and clawing to get back, that wants to be part of this, that can sense the excitement and the enthusiasm around this team. Kyler Murray wants to come back and wants to play football and play good football for this Cardinals, and I think it happens sooner rather than later.
And that's got to be, you got to be pumped up. As great of a story, and man, did it just fall into our lap, just a guy like Joshua Dobbs to come in here and do what he's done, which is unreal and almost like movie worthy. Just what he was up against and how quickly he picked things up and how quickly he turned things around from week 1 to week 2 to week 3. it's unbelievable. And Joshua Dobbs has become a guy that everybody is rooting for and loves, and that he's leading this team and this opportunity that he's never received in his professional football career to date. But then you've got this electric player just kind of behind the scenes, just biding his time, putting in all the hours and then some as far as his rehab, and then kind of just reapplying himself, having renewed hunger in the game and his organization in this town, and realizing that the opportunity is there for him to take hold of once again as he's locked into a $230.5 million contract to be this franchise quarterback, to be this franchise savior, and to do it with the infrastructure that's finally up to the task. And Monty Ossenford, his front office, and the support staff around the organization, the facility, and then the coaching staff with JG and Drew Petzing. And Drew Petzing be the offensive innovator that we hear of, a Mike McDaniels light. I know what McDaniels is doing is otherworldly in Miami, but Drew Petzing fits into what McDaniels said, where he said, if you're not trying to go the opposite of the trends, then you're not doing enough for the play callers. And we're seeing the Arizona Cardinals do some things that people haven't necessarily seen on the offensive side of the football. And to put number one back into that equation, man, ooh, look out. Now, I know that's not going to come without rust. That's not going to come without, taking your lumps and him doing something he's never been asked to do, get under center, have kind of a tweaked footwork, and do some other things as far as running an offense. But once it gets up to speed, and he's as intelligent of a guy as Joshua Dobbs, and he's been putting in the mental reps all along the way, I think as far as the learning curve and the time between when he's activated and when he's in there running this offense, that it's not just like Dobbs, it's not going to be this massive, between day one and getting to where you need to be as far as operating this offense at an efficient level.
He needs several weeks of practice to be ready to play a game. We've said that for a month, 6 weeks time. I want to get to some of these comments here. You guys are absolutely crushing it. Like this video already, 122 people here on the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Cardinal coverage every single day. Dylan Richards, Kyler and Dobbs, elite starter backup duo. I mean, if Kyler Murray comes back and looks like the Kyler Murray of old, it's the best quarterback room they've had in a long time. Respectfully to Colt McCoy. Jessica, Kyler is going to blow everyone out of the water. His growth will be so evident. I think this offense is here to prop him up as well. Here's something interesting, because if you remember last year at this time, or just right before the season, I went back and I looked at news clippings, press clippings, predictions. I looked at over-unders for a lot of teams. The Seahawks was the consensus around the NFL. They were going to be the worst team in the NFL. And what happened? They made the postseason. The New York Giants, while, I think they were probably in the mix to have a top 10 pick, I thought they were going to be a total disaster. I think if we get 2 more outings like we've gotten so far, 4 to 5 game sample size, I will be ready to put the Cardinals in these categories to begin this year. You look at the Giants last year, very, very, I think the Giants are very comparable, the 2022 Giants, to what the Cardinals are doing right now. They had a coach that people liked, but at the same time, maybe didn't take seriously, right? Dable had been a long-time assistant. They also had a quarterback people didn't buy in on. Daniel Jones is a lesser Kyler Murray, but they're polarizing in their own way. And then they have a roster, especially defensively for the Giants, that was very much like a no-name defense. Like the Giants would win the games last year, and people are like, how are they winning games? And I know there's other shoes falling this year, but for last year, when they're playing a last play schedule in the dumpster fire NFC, which I think is worse this year, the Giants snuck up on everybody. And I'm like, okay, like Cardinals can sneak up on people 2-3 weeks into the season. If this is sustainable, if we see a couple more weeks of this, I'm ready to say I'm bought in 100% that this is who they're going to be all season. And if you get Kyler Murray back and humming in this offense, like this happens every year there. I mean, all 3-4 teams in the AFC South won 7 games last year. That division's terrible. That's why, at the end of the day, people scoffed at my preseason prediction. You and I are on this show, like 6-7 wins is obtainable. Like, could it be better than that? I think these next 2 weeks are going to be very telling.
You can simplify things, and I think that in a way they do. As far as the teaching and stuff, it becomes complex, and they've shown that they're very not masters of it, but I think Jonathan Gannon absolutely is a master as far as teaching what he wants from his team, his coaching staff. And as far as what they're looking for on the defensive side, limit the explosives, right? Get off the field, bend, don't break in the important part of the field in the red zone. And we saw that on full display on Sunday against the Dallas Cowboys. And then on the other side, it's take care of the football and take advantage of your explosive opportunities. And they've done that. And it sounds simple, but if you can do that and you can finish by taking the air out of the football, churning clock, playing good defense and getting off the field, like that's just a formula for winning. And how do you now the hard part is putting people in places for success to limit those explosives and to win the one-on-one battles and all that goes into that. But it's a simple approach, but they're operating at a pretty high level, high clip with talent that people didn't think could compete at the NFL level.
When I can a lot of the advanced metrics support the Cardinals overachieving defensively, but their talent level offensively, I think is they're ahead of schedule, but it's nothing to kind of poo-poo on, for lack of a better term. They've got 2 high-end tight ends, both of which were drafted in the second round. They've got 2 first-round offensive tackles. They've got a Pro Bowl running back. They've got a receiver in Hollywood Brown that was a first-round caliber receiver that's had a 1,000-yard receiving season. Rondale Moore is a second-round pick. Michael Wilson's a third-round pick. And then potentially having Kyler Murray back. That's an offense based on talent level alone that can do some things. Will Hernandez went in the second round, right? So I think defensively is really where most Cardinal fans, even with Joshua Dobbs, the roller coaster that's been the start of the season and for the good, right? The defense to me is how can you continue to surrender 16 points in 4 quarters like they did against the Dallas Cowboys with Keitrell Clark against number 1 receivers? How are you going to continue doing this? How is Victor Dimukeje, a 6th rounder from 2 years ago, going to have double-digit sacks? That to me is just this coaching staff led by Gannon and Rallis defensively is so ahead of the opponent. That's got to make you feel so good about the Arizona Cardinals and their direction. And not to dismiss Drew Petzing, but man, this defense once upon a time couldn't stop anybody with Chandler Jones and J.J. Watt and Zach Allen. And that's who was in their front 7. Go look at those games at the end of 2021. I know Watt was hurt, but man, that's the unit to me. If the Cardinals continue to get this kind of defensive play, offense be damned, they will be much more competitive this year, because at the end of the day, people knew Kyler would come back. For the most part, everybody said that defense 32nd in the NFL. Terrible. Who is it? We don't care. They lost all their good players. Byron Murphy, Zach Allen. We're going to talk about that later, Bo. But man, I could not be more encouraged with what I've seen outside of them winning the first 2 games and where we are right now with this team.
Yeah, and getting back to the conversation as far as the quarterback, right? I mean, it's really fascinating. Maybe I'll just ask you, do you feel bad for Joshua Dobbs?
That potentially Kyler could come and take over sooner rather than later? No, because I think that his reality went from I'm going to be potentially cut or relegated to 3rd string in Cleveland behind DTR and Deshaun Watson to I have rejuvenated my career or had the best football of my career. I trust these people with my development. Kyler Murray has been known to go down. And I also feel like Josh Dobbs, assuming he does not fall on his face and vomit all over himself these next couple of games before K1 comes back, Josh Dobbs has made himself some money. I mean, we talked about it all week. These other quarterbacks, Zach Wilson's of the world, these teams, Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell that have no hope. You get a guy like this, big arm, great human being. People want him in the locker room. How long did Colt McCoy's career last? Just because of that alone.
Right.
Mobility, athleticism. You got to be able to move it in 2023 at the quarterback position. Again, I think I made this point late yesterday. It's Cardinals want to be known for a place free agents want to come sign and elevate their career. So I think Joshua Dobbs, if he gets an opportunity to start 5, 6, 7 games this year, that's fantastic for him.
No,
there's nothing that he can do to derail that at this point.
I couldn't agree more. I asked the question just because I was curious your thoughts on it, but I mean, he's been given an opportunity that he's never really been given outside of the 2 games in Tennessee. And that was almost a harder thing to overcome. And he produced, I thought, at a level that not many people could. And it makes you look around the league and you say, are you really going to kick the tires on Andy Dalton again? Are you going to really you're going to bring Joe Flacco in as a quarterback? It's like the Arizona Cardinals, and a tip of cap to Monty Osfort, Dave Sears, whoever made the decision, obviously working in concert with Drew Petzing and Jonathan Gannon, to make the decision to say, hey, we're not just going to roll with Colt McCoy. We're not just going to go see, who's the available stereotypical backup. Let's find a guy that's skill set that fits Drew Petzing's offense and see if he can get in here. And if we put him in a position for success, let's see if he can be successful. And that's what Joshua Dobbs has done. And, JT O'Sullivan said it on the quarterback school, saying, he was making a couple throws in that game on Sunday that were career catapults. Like, there's not throws, but plays that he was making that were career catapults. And I think that there's enough on his resume that he's now talked himself into conversations for teams that are looking at the quarterback position and saying, hey, maybe we could have Josh Dobbs as a bridge. Maybe he's a guy that we can plug in as our starter potentially. Like, he's close. He's that close to where he wasn't even in the conversation outside of the Arizona Cardinals and the Cleveland Brown organization for a role.
He'll be signed next March to somebody that potentially is going to take a quarterback in the first 2 rounds of the NFL draft. Like, Gardner Minshew was signed, 6 weeks before the draft. They took Gardner Minshew, or they took Anthony Richardson. Minshew's already starting games for them. Like, they had a contingency plan. He will be somebody's contingency plan to get a first-round quarterback, and there's supposed to be like fucking 7 in the first round next year. And there's going to be some that go in the teens and the 20s. So it's like, not everybody is Caleb Williams that can start day one, that is ready to play right away. And Josh Dobbs, I think this class in particular is helping Joshua Dobbs. This rookie class right now, save for CJ Stroud. Anthony Richardson's beat up right now. He missed last week. Bryce Young has not looked ready to play. The hit rate on these young quarterbacks, we talked about it, on our audio-only podcast, but it's down to like 20% these past couple of years. Kenny Pickett's terrible. Trevor Lawrence is the only good one out of that 2021 class that has Zach Wilson and Justin Fields. Like, this could be like, remember when Ryan Fitzpatrick got an opportunity? He got hot in the NFL for a couple different teams, Miami and the Jets. So, yeah, I think the Cardinals want to be able to say, you're with us till the end of the season. We're as a contingency. If Kyler, God forbid, were to go down again, we need you to come back in. Go hit free agency, make yourself hopefully some generational wealth for you and your family. And we're honored that you gave us the opportunity to come in and perform well, and vice versa. So 6+ games for Josh Dobbs is fantastic. And I don't see his play dropping. Like, I know the Niners have a top defense. I watched Daniel Jones last week. He was moving around a little bit. I mean, they had through 3 quarters, they were hanging in that game. Now the wheels fell off, but there's no reason he can't replicate that and make a couple more plays potentially.
Yeah. I mean, on the other side of this. So now let's talk about the other side of this. Kyler Murray, him in his electric playmaking coming back, marrying it with Drew Petzing's offense, what the potential is. And then, when would they activate him? So he's eligible on Monday, right? 4 weeks after being placed or kept on PUP to start the season. And then the 21-day window opens up as far as him being added to the active roster. We talked to Jonathan Gannon today, and as I said, he wasn't volunteering any information. Actually, he was pushing back, having some fun with Bobby McManaman of AZ Central. But this is what JG had to say as far as Bobby Mack just came out. He said, will you activate Kyler Murray off PUP on Monday? Almost trying to catch him off guard, or maybe just felt like he just had to ask the question.
Kudos for Bobby for asking.
For sure. Bobby Mack, just straight shooter. This is JG's answer.
Why would I tell you that, Bob?
Well, you don't have to say it.
Come on, Bob. I was kind of joking, but I'm not going to tell you. No, we will activate him when he's ready to go practice. That's what we'll do.
Come on, Bob.
Bo Brock, you're at the facility every day. You're basically there more than you're with your family. You're at the Cardinal facility all the time. Guys, the hardest working person in this company. You don't have this source. We don't have this source on this program right now. feet to the fire. Your opinion, Kyler Murray, when is he activated? Not when he plays. When is he activated off of PUP, do you think?
At the end of that, I thought that he gave us information that we haven't been privy to before, didn't you? Where he said Kyler Murray will be activated when he's ready to practice. Practice. When we go into my Allen Iverson impression, we're talking about practice.
No,
practice. Not a game. Not a game. We're talking about practice. Right. He'll have a 21-day window. I mean, that should give you some encouragement that it's, Kyler Murray on TikTok soon, period, right? And, look up the definition of soon. I think we can all figure out the soonest it can be is Monday, right? So Kyler Murray, right? You've got that. And then Jonathan Gannon has been, of course, it's something that he's been asked about week in and week out. And he said, Kyler, he's going to need some time on the practice field. He said that as well. So, it's not, hey, they're going to activate him and he's going to be facing Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase on the other side of the football, Trey Hendrickson in that Bengals defense. But, I think it's very realistic. I think that we're starting to see, we're at the precipice of Kyler Murray being activated from PUP.
Like, again, it goes back to my original point. Like, don't think.
Come on, Bob.
Bob. I don't think he's playing against the Bengals.
I
think we both can say that. Like, Dobbs is going to play against the Bengals. What do the practice reps look like that week against the Rams?
Mm-hmm.
Moving forward from that, the week against the Seahawks, and how do you balance that with Dobbs, who's played well and needs reps, with Kyler Murray's back being quarterback one? I think next week is the last week, because I think he's going to get activated. Next week is the last week where Dobbs is just repping it all out with the number ones. You got to start to integrate him at some point. You can't do that before.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a week of practice, but on-field stuff, you've mentioned this before. You've done a great job of this, Bo, breaking down. They're only on the field for 2.5 days max.
Right.
So, Kyler will probably put more time in because he needs to, and that's just his DNA. He'll be after practice with Yelda Froholt taking snaps, working on routes. But I think, my guess is Kyler Murray's first home game is against the Ravens, whatever that looks like, whether that's his first game back, whether he's been back for a week or so. But, I think we're trending toward Kyler Murray. This is my opinion, based on all the facts. I'm just taking the facts like everybody else. We're trending toward Kyler Murray being activated, and he starts to finally practice next week. And then we'll just take it 1 week at a time.
Yeah.
Because he has to practice.
And Gannon was asked this last week, I think by our guy Howard Balzer, how are you going to kind of ride that line of getting Joshua Dobbs ready for the start that week, and then also getting Kyler Murray up to speed, because he's going to step into the first team offense. It's inevitable, right? And Gannon's like, we are pretty confident that we have enough reps, and in the way that we how our practices go anyway, there are enough reps out there for Kyler to get up to speed and Joshua Dobbs to get prepared for whatever that week's opponent is. I mean, when you see him, and we only get privy to, when they're warming up and they're doing a couple drills. Obviously, the quarterbacks are warming up and they throw in a different backs and receivers and tight ends. And it's Clayton Tune and it's Joshua Dobbs. And then on the other end of the field, it's practice squad quarterback Jeff Driscoll. I wouldn't be surprised if Kyler is on that side of the field to start, and then gearing himself up to potentially, come the start of. So if he's activated next week, right off PUP, but not onto the roster, come Wednesday of week 5 against the Bengals, he's on the side of the field with Dobbs. Maybe Tune's there, or maybe Tune is, with Driscoll on the other side, or if they've got a 3-headed monster, I don't know, with the new quarterback rules. And that's another, just part of this story is what happens with Clayton Tune when Kyler Murray comes back to this roster. I think that they keep all 3 of them.
I do too.
But
I think there's still a good chance Clayton Tune's your backup in 2024.
Right.
And Josh Dobbs gets paid, rightfully so, by somebody else. They get a comp pick in 2025. And Clayton Tune, by all accounts, is handling this well. He went from potential starter to maybe third on the depth chart, and we thought he'd be third on the depth chart as Colt McCoy passes it to Kyler Murray, and that's not the case. But I do not think, and they believe they can win every game. But Gannon was very candid about San Francisco and the challenge they present. Bo, you put out some tweets today. Number one in both efficiencies for both of their offense and defense. You have
he called Kyle Shanahan the greatest, offensive play caller right now.
Right. They're going to have, the Niners are going to have to be off and the Cardinals are going to have to play all worldly. But I want to put this game aside for a second. We're going to have plenty of time here in a second to talk about the game on Sunday. The Bengals at home, Rams on the road, Seahawks on the road are all 3 winnable games for this team. With what we've seen thus far, you have to take that into account. You can't screw around with practice reps for both of these guys. You either have to commit to one or the other, and you have to know exactly what you're doing. I believe they know, and they have a plan in place.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Cincinnati, they're going with Joshua Dobbs. I can tell everybody that right now, like that. There are going to be people that run with it, national media, maybe here locally. If and when Kyler is activated on Monday, he is not going to play against the Bengals. I can tell you that definitively. After that, it's like, okay, what if Josh Dobbs plays really well again? Does Kyler need more time? Rams is winnable. At Seahawks is winnable. And you start stacking up some dubs and some confidence, it's going to be very interesting how they navigate that. Because once you rip the Band-Aid off and you bring Kyler back, to your point, you've got some stroke. Like, you can't go back to Dobbs. It's Kyler Murray. So they have to be 100% convinced, Bo Brock, that he is an upgrade over Joshua Dobbs. I think he'll prove that in a couple practices, but it's just something fascinating to watch.
Sly, it's an interesting debate that you put out there. If Dobbs gets 3 consecutive wins, is not turning the ball over, doesn't throw a pick, he hasn't thrown a pick yet, you can't just give it back to K1. Look, that's a good-ass problem to have. If that's the case, if they've won 3 in a row, then yeah, let's have that debate right now.
It looks like too. If the defense is scoring touchdowns, if it's the run game,
yeah.
Like let's remember, Kyler Murray's ceiling is 4 or 5 touchdowns a game.
Remember Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick way back when? This was at the beginning of the hardball, right? Alex Smith was playing at a high level, and they were either like a 1-loss team or undefeated team,
right.
And he gets nicked up. And then Kaepernick gets back and he Wally pips him. It was forever ago, but look, it's not unprecedented. Like, guys have played.
One of the greatest quotes of all time. Harbaugh goes, "We're going to go with Colin and we're going to go with Alex." And then that's what he's saying to the media. We're going to go, well, we like Alex and we're going to go with Colin too. And it's just, come on.
Huh?
It was obvious.
Jim? Come on, Jim. It's like JG. Come on, Bob. Oh man, it's look, if Josh Dobbs makes the case and he's putting up, and the offense is putting up 28 points a game again, and they're still rolling, or they take another jump, then sure, we'll have that conversation. But the keys to this offense still remain. Like, Joshua Dobbs is asking Kyler Murray for the keys to the offense, just like Johnny used to do to his dad to get the keys of the car back in high school. I mean, it's
the 1992 Honda Tercel. Can't remember what Honda. Yeah, it was rough. Times were tough.
Right.
My dad was also, coincidentally, not only my football coach, my driver's ed teacher. And one day I forgot to wear my contacts to driver's ed. Did terrible. So after football practice at 6 p.m., he made me go interstate driving. So bet you didn't think you'd hear that.
Wow, that's sink or swim.
Times are tough. Get on the interstate. Let me see you change lanes over 4. Because I was doing this, going over 4 different lanes. I thought you could do that all at once. You can't do that. But Jimbo gives us a $5 super chat. You can do this. I feel Joshua's humble confidence combined with his talent is a great example for Kyler. I think, Jimbo, you're knocking on the right door with what our guy Brian Baldinger said yesterday. It's just everybody knows Kyler is immensely gifted physically, and I think he's caught up to everything they've wanted to do with the playbook, despite not being on the field. Kyler Murray, I feel confident in saying this, is going to be a different quarterback on and off the field than what we've seen under Cliff Kingsbury. If you go find those photos, as I alluded to, it's on my Twitter, it's on a bunch of people's Twitter, of the elation from Kyler Murray with his teammates behind Monty Osford and Jonathan Gannon in the locker room. And again, like here's what does sometimes bother me, because we're K1 defenders and apologists to some extent. Like, we can sit here and have conversations like, we like Kyler Murray, best quarterback they've drafted and developed in the history of the franchise. But he had some areas he had to get better at. He had some areas he had to fix. He had to remedy. We talked to Kelvin Beachum about it. We talked to a bunch of ex-players at Radio Row. Like, That's okay. But you know what? I think he's done all that. And now
Right.
the next step is playing on the field with his teammates.
You could tap in right now to the short-lived ESPN sideline reporter Sergio Dip, and he will tell you Kyler Murray, he is having the time of his life.
What happened to that guy, man?
That report happened, and then he said, "Hey, step in my office. You're fired, Sergio. Get out of here. You never work in this town again."
When Vance gets fired, he might just need to follow Vance Joseph around, and Vance can just pay him to say that to him.
Yeah,
that's good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was in Mexico City last year.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Man. There was such a bad road trip for the Arizona Cardinals. That was probably an overlooked part of it. Was he in the part of the coverage?
I believe so. I think they had him sideline reporting for it.
That's when if you haven't seen that, Sergio talking about Vance Joseph having the time of his life, it's one of the greatest things that's ever happened to the Cardinals.
Somebody needs to overlay it, edit it into the just a super cut of the Miami Dolphins just having a track meet to the end zone, blowing the Broncos out by 50 and putting a 70 burger on them.
Yeah, I forgot. It was while he was the head coach of the Broncos. My goodness. Good stuff. We're going to talk about the injury report here in a second for practice. But first, we're going to tell you guys about our friends. BetMGM. Bet 10, get $200. Guys, if you haven't been on BetMGM yet, what are you waiting for? Bet just $10 with the bonus code PHNX. You're going to get $200 in additional winnings regardless of the outcome. So if your bet wins, great. They don't cap it. But if you lose, you still get that sweet, sweet $200 in additional winnings to do what you want with. But here's what I want you to do. Go download the BetMGM Sportsbook app or visit BetMGM.com. Use that bonus code PHNX. 10 bones is going to get you $200. There's a lot of games I like this weekend, Bo Brock. Let me tell you right now, are the Chicago Bears worth sprinkling a little coin this week?
No.
No, they are not. I like the Vikings. I'm going to tell you right now, I think my bet of the week, I think the Detroit Lions are going to bludgeon the Green Bay Packers. They're -1.5. The Packers are huge, huge frauds. Tease that be up with our friends at BetMGM. 5 points, 6 points, 7 points. Dan Campbell and company, they're going to railroad the Green Bay Packers tomorrow. That's your BetMGM lock of the week from your boy. In the meantime, sign up with BetMGM. Bonus code PHNX, $10, get you $200. Check out the show notes for full details. Now listen to our guy Shane Diefenbach talk about it in the disclaimer.
Problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369 New York. Call 1-800-327-5050 Massachusetts. 21 plus to wager. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP Arizona. 1-800-BETS-OFF Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help Michigan. 1-800-981-0023 Puerto Rico in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in D.C., New York, or Ontario.
We're going to be out at the beautiful BetMGM Sportsbook for the Cardinals-Niners game this Sunday. Come join us. We got more info on how you can win yourself a pair of tickets to the Cardinals home game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah, just a little here. Yeah, we got that QR code. You want to get in now? Just scan that little hot baby right now. But let me tell you about Shady Rays as well. We've got the promo code PHNX that continues to get you 50% off 2 or more pairs of premium polarized sunglasses from Shady Rays, an independent sunglasses company that likes to keep that price point well under $100, and they do, but they don't compromise quality. I mean, these are truly world-class product. Shady Rays, they've got just a wide array of products that you got to check out right now. ShadyRays.com or check them out in Carolyn Commons up in North Scottsdale. Awesome brick and mortar store where you can see all of their products online, including this. They've got this golf brand too. It's called Green Wolf, and they're awesome. They're not 100% polarized. They're 50% because you're out there on the link, so you don't want to have your eyes completely blocked out. You can see what you're doing out there. Check out all their products. Save some money while doing it. ShadyRays.com. You can use that promo code at their store as well. Just tell them PHNX, and you get that 50% off. Find out why 250,000 people have rated Shady Rays 5 stars. ShadyRays.com and Carolyn Commons.
Good stuff in the chat. Robert saying, I think as long as Dobbs is winning, JG stays with Dobbs. I mean, like if Dobbs beats the Niners and the Bengals back-to-back weeks, I mean, sure, they'll have that conversation. You just ride the hot hand. But, I mean, Kyler Murray, though, gives you the ammunition to really crank up this offensive efficiency. Now, they're scoring 28 points per game the last 2 weeks. Like, it's the NFL. Anything can happen. I think the same people, though, and I'm not trying to put Dobbs in this category, remember the conversations each of the last 2 years when Colt McCoy had a nice little stretch. People were saying, look at this, stick with Colt McCoy. I think enjoy Joshua Dobbs now, enjoy K1 when he's back. As Bo mentioned, good problem to have. Problems to have on the injury report, Bo Brock, is what's going on with the depth at inside linebacker, because I do not like what I'm seeing circa Chris Barnes and Josh Woods.
Yeah, so we saw Barnes, and if you watch closely on the broadcast, the Cowboys game on Sunday, his hand wasn't looking too great. It looked like he injured his finger. Saw him out there today at practice, so it has him as DMP. He was stretching with his teammates, with the linebacking crew. He had his hand wrapped, and we'll see if he's a guy that's just – Jonathan Gannon said they're evaluating Chris Barnes. And then Josh Woods is not practicing again. He's missed 2 games for the Cardinals. He's got an ankle issue. He's trending in the right direction, according to JG. All signs are pointing to him hopefully coming back by the end of this week and maybe being ready to play in week 4 against the 49ers, but nothing is for sure there. You see James Conner show up on here. He was limited with a back. It's probably because he's doing a lot of heavy lifting in the run game, but I don't think that's going to be an issue with James Conner. Calvin Beachum remains on here with his hand. He was full. Zaven Collins, full go. He's got a cool looking dark visor on his helmet now. It's his villain arc right now, where we've got dark visor Zaven Collins. But yeah, you're looking at the inside linebacking core, and in the depth, it's down a bit. If Barnes can't go, and of course you're already down Woods, it's basically Kazir White, and then you've got Zeke Turner, who came in relief of Barnes, who was primarily used as a special teamer. And then you've got kind of the real kind of raw Owen Papo that I think a lot of people are excited about, but clearly the coaching staff, not a whole ton of confidence that he's ready to get out there on the playing field outside of just special teams right now.
I mean, I was really impressed with Chris Barnes last weekend. Multiple stops on third down. Looks good in the pass game. That would be a big loss, because you think about all the intermediate stuff that the Niners want to do. The Niners, they can go deep on the occasional play, but I mean, Purdy is a system quarterback in the best possible way, right? He's a Kirk Cousins game manager-esque, but again, everything is around the line of scrimmage, dinks and dunks, end arounds. You need your stalwarts in the middle, Barnes, and then especially Kazir White. I mean, Kazir White playing, I think, is a Pro Bowl level, needs to have his best game this weekend for the Cardinals to have a chance. McCaffrey underneath. Debo, if he plays on an end around, Brandon Ayuk's back. So, I mean, they need their horses in the back 7. I think what we've seen right now with their defensive line, the San Francisco 49ers, and I'll give them credit. I laughed at the acquisition of McCaffrey. I thought that was an overpay at the time. I couldn't have been more wrong. They are doing what you should do with a running back on a big contract. They are pounding him into oblivion. Like, he's getting like 25 plus touches a game. Like, he was getting touches in the game last week when that game was out of hand against the Giants, when I'm like, what is even going on here? What's the benefit of it? They love McCaffrey and they want to work him hard. And so Cardinals have to be prepared for that. Like, there is not going to be a let-up moment. Like, the Cowboys gave you let-up moments because of their own incompetence. Cardinals took advantage, made some plays. Like, the Niners are not going to be out here being penalized for 100 yards and having punt returns wiped out and throwing interceptions in the red zone. Purdy's never thrown a regular season INT. So I think do whatever you can to get Barnes out there, and or if Josh Woods can come back. This is going to be the toughest test. This is when you really wish number 3 was on the field for you defensively in Budda Baker.
Yeah, let's take a look at the Niners side of this injury report. They played Thursday Night Football, and you saw at least Deebo Samuel has the rib injury. He didn't practice, so that's something to follow along with. And Ayuk didn't play the previous week, but that was on a short kind of turnaround, playing on Thursday night. So Ayuk, former Sun Devil, probably trending towards playing. And then Trent Williams, I don't think anybody's concerned about Trent Williams missing a game there. Big left tackle, and a big part of what they'd like to do in the pass and run game is one of the best just tackles in the game right now. So really interesting. We'll see what, what Greenlaw, and you heard our guy Baldy say yesterday, Greenlaw and Fred Warner is the best, or probably the best linebacker tandem or duo in the NFL. So that's something to follow along with. They're not exactly in the best of health. So if you're looking for some sort of advantage there, but then, if Samuel can't go and Ayuk comes back and George Kittle seems to be as healthy as he's been in a long time, still in McCaffrey, they still can throw a ton at you offensively. And then what you pointed out, Brock Purdy, just threw like 4 picks last year, hasn't thrown a pick this year. He takes care of the football. I talked to JG about that today. He's just impressive. And what he was able to do in the finale of a gutted Cardinals roster last year, it was an easy day at the office for Purdy last year in week 18. Nick Rollis and Jonathan Gannon need to change that, because that was just way too easy. What did he throw? Like 3 touchdowns, and he was like 15 for 20. It was just
competitive.
Yeah, it was just picking off Vance Joseph's defense.
Now, we didn't hate it because it was a necessary evil as to what occurred, 24 hours later with the dismissal of everyone from the staff. But Thunder in the chat, our frenemies at PFF, Barnes and White are both in the top 10 for off-ball linebackers. Very coincidental, as Keim could never get his off-ball linebackers to crack.
What are you talking about? He spent first-round picks on them. It had to have been
worked
good,
out,
right?
Yeah, no. You're paying between Barnes and White, respectfully, probably like $5 million this year, and they look like inside linebackers. Looks like Carlos Dansby and Darrell Washington at times. You love to see that. You love to see this. This is a super chat from the friend of the program, Topic 64 499. Watching San Francisco last night, we can contain that offense, take away the 3-headed monster, Kittle, Debo, McCaffrey. We can beat this team. I think there's a chance that Ayuk plays and Debo doesn't. Like, if I'm reading the tea leaves, I'm doing a San Francisco hit tomorrow. Guy I follow is pretty adamant. Like, they think they can beat the Cardinals without Debo. Okay, like, do that. Try to do that, because at the end of the day, this team was very competent defensively against the Dallas team that's got Brandon Cooks and CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup. So Debo and Ayuk are a different monster entirely. But I mean, like, Kittle, to me, can they scheme up an idea that Vance Joseph and company could never do? Could they cover him with a single player, or will they use a combination of Kayvon Wallace and Kazir White? I think the key to this game, can they take advantage of a right tackle situation for San Francisco that has not been good to start this year? Because Trent Williams is a godsend for them on the left side. Their right tackle play, they let their former top 15 pick kid out of Notre Dame go to the Denver Broncos, and that it is what it is. But McGlinchey, they have not replaced McGlinchey, even as a run blocker. So can they load up the right side? Can Zaven and Victor Dimukeje get home and force Brock Purdy into some mistakes? I think so. I think there were some interceptable balls last week that the Giants didn't take advantage of. But the biggest thing, and we said this against Dallas, Bo, as Julie says, I feel like the Cardinals can win. They can't win if they let this team race out to a double-digit lead. Like, we haven't seen this team that happen to this team all year, so I don't know why I keep bringing it up, but they are not built to play from behind. They got to stay within one possession, 10 points max if they want a chance to win.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get more into the weeds as far as what it's going to take. Baldy, you can check out his full interview. He answered that question, which is, it's just not trying to find a successful game plan that you could deploy to beat this team. It's tough, but I agree with Topic 64. It starts especially with slowing down 23 Christian McCaffrey. And that guy's been nightmare fuel for Arizona Cardinals fans for far too long. We all know the infamous play where he doesn't even get tackled in two-hand touch against the Cardinals and their defensive line when he goes with 60-plus yards for the touchdown. He seems to always have big-time games against the Arizona Cardinals. And if they can somehow slow him down, make him a non-factor, they did a good job in doing that the first half to Saquon in week 2, but then he came alive in the second half. They did a good job in keeping Tony Pollard as kind of a quiet game in week 3. If they can quiet down Christian McCaffrey, who's reaching if he scores a touchdown, it's a historic game for him. To an impressive resume. He's scored in like 12 straight games, hasn't he?
Yeah. Right now, he's texting my buddy who's a Niner fan, and I might have dabbled on anytime touchdown parlay last week against the Giants. It feels like free money right now. I mean, it's as close to Justin Fields' anytime touchdown that we had last year because of how much this offense is centered around him. Like, it's not a coincidence. They acquired him, and Purdy kind of took over around the same time last year, and that's when things kind of took off. So, I mean, it's a very tall task. He's the number 1 back right now in the NFL, in my opinion. His hands are exceptional. He's the what do you call it? He's the exception to the rule of taking backs high because of all that he can do. And so the Cardinals have a tall task, but I don't root for injuries. But like, this is a team built on a house of cards. Like McCaffrey can get hurt, Debo, Kittle, Trent Williams and company. They've had exceptional, Nick Bosa's missed time. They've had exceptional injury luck to begin this season. Maybe Sunday's the day that kind of all falls on its face. I don't know.
Yeah, I love this question, James the Juggernaut. Simple answer. Where did I get my Dortch shirt? It's dope. I got it at the PHNX locker. That's also where Johnny got this. There we go. That amazing shirt right there. It's the celebration tee. That's going to be very relevant soon, isn't it?
That might be coming back.
But this Greg Dortch t-shirt, yeah, it's a new release in the PHNX locker, phnxlocker.com. Go get your Greg Dortch shirt today. It's my favorite shirt right now in rotation from the PHNX locker.
Now we have a couple shirts in the hopper, so keep an eye out for that. But become a diehard. You can get one of these shirts for free, as well as all the many content available at gophnx.com, like the workings of our guy, PHNX Cardinal beat reporter Howard Balzer, cranked out a new article yesterday. Howard's on fire lately. It seems like there's an article every other day. Gerald Bourguet, head writer for the Suns, I'm sure he's going to have a rapid reaction as it relates to bye-bye, DeAndre Ayton. Take care. It's good seeing you.
That took over, by the way, Cardinals practice. We were out there taking in practice, and the old Woj bomb came to everybody's phone at the same time, and Cardinals talk was derailed for a solid 15 minutes, just breaking down us being, amateur basketball reporters at that time.
Step in the chat. Johnny needs to wear his lucky new kicks. I will have them. You can see them in person. My new Jordans, my only ever Jordan that I've ever bought at BetMGM this weekend, where I will be partaking in wings, maybe some nachos, maybe some on-tap pumpkin porter, if you fancy that, which of course I do. I want to talk to Bo Brack about Jonathan Gannon, Coach of the Year odds. But first, I want to tell everybody about our friends at Game Time. So I'm going to share some insight with you guys. The Cardinals are better than we thought, so get your tickets now. Cincinnati Bengals come to town in exactly 10 days. You want to have premium seats at not a premium price, check out our friends at Game Time, and we're going to hook you up. Bonus code PHNX, 20% off your first purchase. Hottest ticket in town. I got off the phone with our GM, Saul Bookman, today, and it's just like, I'm going to get on Game Time because I'm going to start cherry picking these home games to see the return of Kyler Murray. Because I can tell you right now, when and if we find out Kyler Murray's return date, that first home game that he plays, you're going to want to get on that now. It's called being proactive, but then it also kind of goes against Game Time. So you got to level that out, right? How about just buy home tickets because you're going to get them cheapest anywhere else with our friends at Game Time. Concerts, Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. It's the fastest-growing ticketing app in the country. Doesn't have all those egregious fees. It's where you want to be. Download the Game Time app. Use that promo code PHNX, $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Again, last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
It's a great app for procrastinators like myself. Like if you don't get in right now to, the next home game, which is Cincinnati, or if you're looking with an eye on the future of when, realistically Kyler Murray could be back in the lineup, and you're looking at Baltimore coming to State Farm Stadium and the star power at the quarterback position, Game Time app, you can hold out into the last second and get yourself a pretty good deal on some tickets. The best deal you're going to find, no doubt about it, on any of those ticket apps. Game Time is the way to go. Burrito Express is also the way to go. If you are out of ideas for dinner, just stop by one of their many Valley locations, including that Tempe location, which is the OG. It's the legit spot to go get your burrito. You probably are going to go see a future NFL player, and Jalen Conyers in there, just putting back a couple burritos and bowls and all the stuff he loves over at Burrito Express, chopping it up, talking Valley sports with the owner over there who loves to talk Valley sports, Cardinals football, Suns hoops, and of course, Arizona State athletics. They give back to the community there by their support of ASU athletics and its athletes. Love the food. They delivered some delicious burritos this week, and they often do each and every week. They don't try to do anything too crazy. They get the bean and cheese burrito right, and that's the number one sign of a legit burrito spot. You got to get bean and cheese right, because if you don't do it there, you're not going to get anything else right. And they do everything right as far as Burrito Express. Check them out on Twitter at BurritoEXP, and check out their multiple Valley locations, including that Tempe one.
So right now with our friends at BetMGM, they have a lot of future bets that you can get. A lot of divisional winners, playoff winners. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to pull up, how about some playoff odds with our friends at playoffs with our friends at BetMGM. But before I do that, I'm going to look at Coach of the Year odds, Bo Brock. Coach of the Year odds at BetMGM. Now, I teased this in the show. Jonathan Gannon, do you care to guess what his Coach of the Year odds are with our friends at BetMGM right now?
Right now. What's the leader right now?
The leader right now for Coach of the Year is Mike McDaniel, plus 350.
I'm going to say Jonathan Gannon is plus 1,600.
Jonathan Gannon is plus 5,000 to win NFL Coach of the Year.
Price is right. Roll that in.
To me, it's like, okay, I get it. People don't like the Cardinals. They beat the Niners Sunday. That probably gets cut in half at plus 2,500.
Yeah.
I like Mike McDaniel, right? I think he's a great coach. We met him in Indianapolis at the Combine. Super friendly guy. One of the guys, right? Jonathan Gannon's team not projected to win any games this year. And potentially if he gets them around 500, above 500, has to be Coach of the Year. I bring that up because it's relevant. We're trying to make everybody money. Plus 5,000. Think about that for a second. You want to sprinkle a free bet, one of your $200 bonus bets that you get from using bonus code PHNX. Not a bad way to spend your money. Now, on the flip side, Bo Brock, a very poor way to spend your money maybe was last March in free agency when certain teams decided to cherry pick a couple Cardinals. Subsequently, now those two teams 0-6. I'm talking about Zach Allen with the Denver Broncos and our boy Byron Murphy with the Minnesota Vikings. 0-6, two guys that left the Cardinals. And a lot, I remember doing that show that day in March. I wasn't freaking out. You weren't either. But, I mean, there was some upheaval. Why are you letting guys go in their mid-20s? This is a huge mistake. Already a big indictment on Austin Ford. Nobody wants to play for you.
Right.
And now we sit here, and it's like, in hindsight, they couldn't have handled that better, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're starting to see the forest through the trees, aren't they? Where they couldn't necessarily do that before. They just didn't see that this was a rebuild, and throwing money at guys from the previous regime to be kind of a Band-Aid or just somebody that they can fill a hole with wasn't something they wanted to do right now. They wanted to kind of clean house. They wanted to get the roster down to the studs and then to start to build their own foundation with guys that they're going to draft and they're going to develop. And they haven't hidden from that. Monty Osfort, Jonathan Gannon have maintained that they're going to be a draft and develop team going forward. Now, are they going to maybe make a trade for a corner at some point beyond this season, or an edge rusher or somebody in the interior of that defense, or a wide receiver? I wouldn't put that, past them. But for the most part, the bulk of their roster is going to be from guys that they identified at the collegiate level and then drafted and then developed at the NFL level under the tutelage of the coaching staff, Jonathan Gannon, Nick Rollis, Drew Petzing and crew, and their other talented position coaches. So, that was at the time, sure, I think for a fan base that didn't have a whole lot to root for, and the few players that they could kind of hang their hat on that were successes drafted in this organization and found success onto the free agent market, it's a tough pill to swallow, but it's a necessary evil as far as just ridding yourself and not, putting the team in a position to pay a big guaranteed dollar amount going forward to guys who aren't going to be here for part of the solution when this organization goes back to the next level and back to relevance.
I want to get to this comment, friend of the program, Dylan Richards. I mean, they would still be good depth, even with them losing. Zach Allen would be our best defensive line guy. I don't disagree with a lot of that. But to Bo's point, they got paid. I mean, Byron Murphy got paid less than Zach Allen. Got a nice starting defensive line contract. I mean, I'm happy he got it. Does anybody think he's worth it? I'm going to read you some statistics right now. So he has played, it looks like, about 150 snaps this year. He's got 11 tackles. He's got 1 hurry. He's got no sacks, right? He's got 3 pressures. Cardinals manufactured that in a quarter against the Commanders. His PFF grade, again, take it with a grain of salt, 55 with a 58 pass rush grade. He got paid to rush the passer. 3 games, doesn't have a sack. How about Byron Murphy? Byron Murphy said no to the Cardinals, went to Minnesota. His PFF grade, 45.8. I've watched him with my own eyes, has not been good this year. No. Any interceptions? Nope. How many missed tackles?
When he looked good last?
When?
In practice against Cole McCoy.
Yeah.
That was the last time I saw Byron Murphy compete and look like he could compete. And it's unfortunate. And, I expect him to turn around from a 45. That's right around where Keitrell Clark is getting his PFF grade is. And in Topic 64, I know you're probably wanting to slam your computer or wherever you're watching this show because you see that PFF is flawed and very flawed, right? But Keitrell is out there competing. The numbers are comparable, but one's making a 6th-round rookie salary, and the other got $8 million that can, I think, get to as high as 12 in Byron Murphy. So
Byron
I'd much
Murphy's
rather take a guy like Keitrell Clark.
passer rating to opposing receivers. Like, I don't know if Keitrell Clark's doing that. That's beyond PFF. Like, you can find those statistics on other sites. When targeting Byron Murphy, opposing quarterbacks have 125 passer rating. I mean, like, the Cardinal defense probably doesn't allow 125 as a whole. I'm sure they don't.
Yeah.
And then you think about that, and that's absurd. So now
do the receiver that left.
Who's that?
DeAndre Hopkins. What are his numbers look like compared to let's say his replacement is Michael Wilson.
Okay, so DeAndre Hopkins right now has, and he's a PFF darn. He's got a PFF grade of 70.7, 153 receiving yards, 0 touchdowns this year. Passer rating when targeted, however, 44.3. I mean, again, you want D-Hop on your team. You want Byron Murphy. You want Zach Allen. Their cumulative price tag is probably over $55 million a year. I mean, the Cardinals were going to pay D-Hop like $30 million. Zach Allen wanted to be a $15 to $20 million player, and Byron Murphy almost got $10 million a year. So for a team, again, the Cardinals are trying to assess what they have. Friend of the program, Kyle Odegaard, had a good tweet today about like the fact that the starting defense that limited Dak Prescott was making like a cumulative, like $20 million or something like that. I mean, it's unbelievable. But we knew this is what they wanted to do the minute they signed Kazir White in free agency. Like,
how about
Go ahead.
How about the back and forth between Kyle Odegaard and DeAndre Hopkins on Twitter?
See, I don't think a lot of people saw that because D-Hop deleted his tweet.
It's not just that tweet. It's been a back and forth. Like, I think D-Hop initially pushed back on Kyle, who pointed out that I think Michael Wilson has more receiving yards than Hopkins does this year.
Right.
And then Hopkins says, "Don't you cover the Cardinals?" I'm paraphrasing the tweet. And then the one that you're referencing, what did he point out?
Hopkins went after Kyle Odegaard's dogs and said they were like the ugliest dogs you've ever seen. And it was just, I sent it to Bo at like 11 p.m. the other night. I'm like, what a world is this season taking? The turns that it's taking. We knew D-Hop searched his own name on Twitter, though, because like over the course of the free agency saga, as the Cardinals were trying to trade him, and we were putting out show titles of like, no one wants D-Hop. D-Hop needs to stop talking on opposing podcasts. He would like our tweets, our individual tweets, our show tweets. So, like, D-Hop, I love D-Hop. Like, he's made his money. I think he's a Hall of Famer. Like, don't get off Twitter. You and Kevin Durant, don't
search your name. Don't search your name any longer.
Twitter, Andre Hopkins. But
he was very complimentary of Michael Wilson. He's like, I like Michael Wilson. I think he's going to be a great player. He was doing a lot of great things at Stanford. Well, I was a 5-time All-Pro. By the way, bro, your dogs are ugly. It was like, that's like a Trump insult. It's like, your dogs are ugly. Everybody knows.
You've got an ugly porch swing. I've seen the people that live on your street. They're not good looking. Joel, $4.99. Bo, did JG say anything about Garrett Williams or Maji? Joel, thank you so much for the super chat.
Yeah. Joel, I'm glad you asked. He did say that Garrett Williams is trending in the right direction, and obviously they got to they can make a decision on Monday, just like Kyler Murray, and they can make a decision on Myjai Sanders. Guys that have been rehabbing their respective injuries. Sanders had the hand injury way back in training camp, and then Garrett Williams, he's almost a year out from when he suffered his torn ACL playing for Syracuse against Notre Dame. And I think that, I saw Garrett Williams out there in the open portion of practice. He wasn't in like the rehabbing side of thing. Now he obviously does rehab, but he was shadowing almost, just kind of mulling around the cornerbacks. I think he's close. And the things that Jonathan Gannon, or at least what Gannon said to him, by the way, Gannon came in, talk about fire in his gut. He had a little extra fire in his gut today when he was talking to everybody. He seemed to maybe give us more information than we've seen the last couple of weeks. and it's not a coincidence as after his first win. But he said that Garrett Williams is trending, and he's got a couple of things he needs to do, but he's encouraged by his progress, and I think that there's a very good realistic opportunity that he becomes activated or reinstated from the non-football injury list come next week when he's eligible. And Majay, I think the same could be said for him.
Well, 3 positions of notes: cornerback and pass rusher and quarterback. I mean, those are 3 elite positions that the Cardinals need help at, and to be elevated at. I mean, I'm concerned about the cornerback depth. This is exactly what this team needs, and the pass rush depth the pass rush itself has disappeared at times during some of these games, and so I think Majay Sanders has the lengthy athleticism to seamlessly come back in. And the good thing for Majay, as compared to Kyler and Garrett, not a lower body injury. It was a fluke hand injury. We saw him. He looked good at training camp. I think he's somebody, along with B.J. Ojulari, that hopefully they'll be able to mix and match on third down. But I mean, this team, it's like the opposite of what we've experienced the last couple of years. They're getting healthy, right? Like SOS Buda Baker, like come back Buda when you're ready. But the team has really good safety depth. They have really good depth on their front 7, because no one player they're overly dependent on outside of maybe Kazir White. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see these guys play.
Where do they play though? Garrett Williams is a really interesting case, because I mean, Jonathan Gannon and Nick Rollis are rolling with Marco Wilson and Keitrell Clark, because they know to get better.
I don't know if rolling is the right term.
You think that just by necessity, just by default? Like, we are barely seeing any Antonio Hamilton, any Christian Matthew. Like, do you think that once they have somebody that they trust and that they want to get up to speed, that will become a true rotation? And that,
I think the best corner on the team is also the best safety right now on the team in Jalen Thompson.
Yeah.
So I would say Marco Wilson and Keitrell Clark could be spared, for depth purposes by Garrett Williams on occasion. Maybe not Keitrell Clark, because they are convinced like he's going to play.
I think Marco suffers playing time or snaps going to a guy like Garrett Williams more so than Keitrell.
That's the point I was trying to make. Yeah. Not very well. Keitrell Clark is Jonathan Gannon's baby, and Jalen Thompson is the MVP of the secondary right now. And those 2 guys play corner. So who's the odd man out? And I like Marco Wilson, and I've been a supporter of his, but I also think like he had a pass interference penalty that got picked up that really could have screwed them over against Dallas. And if you go back, of course, Cowboy fans have pulled screenshots. He got there early. Like the Cardinals got bailed out because that ball goes on the 1 yard line. They're ramming Tony Pollard in for 6 late in that game. Garrett Williams, to me, like, got to get him on the field. I mean, we love Michael Wilson. Garrett Williams went like 30 picks ahead of Michael Wilson.
Yeah.
I mean, and he had top 50, maybe first round tape before his injury at Syracuse. If he's healthy, and like, I don't know how much we can reveal, Bo. Like, I saw him at training camp and he looked good. And so when they activate him, I think it's going to be, let's just say, like, maybe Garrett Williams needs less practice time than Kyler Murray. Like, I could see him being active and okay, play a little special teams here. We'll sub you in and out. It's different. The quarterback comes in. You got to be ready to handle everything. Whereas Majay and Garrett slowly, like what they're doing with B.J. Ojulari, right? 17 snaps, 16 snaps, 18 snaps. You got to get Garrett Williams out there ASAP because he's missed a whole year. You got to get him out there.
Yeah, and get him back into football shape. I don't know if maybe I don't see, like, sometimes teams utilize the slot as a way to ease guys back in, but I think that JG and Rollis view that as too much of an important position. The conflict that tight ends give up to you in traveling sometimes with some of the receivers there. It's too tough to just put somebody in there. So I'm sure they'll kind of they're going to eat. I mean, we're seeing what they're doing with B.J. Ojulari. I can't imagine that it's that much different, even though the position is different. They're still premium spots, but very different as far as how they operate and how, getting put out there on an island is much different than just trying to get after a quarterback, and especially at the NFL level with no experience.
AZ Fan 1998, friend of the program, $2 super chat. This draft class will get us to the promised land. Certainly feels like this draft class, Bo, is a foundation for what they want to do short-term, long-term. And again, like, I'm not going to sit here and say like all these guys are going to be stars, all pros. I think Paris Johnson Jr. will be. But again, like, the bar is so low. Can we just get people like second contracts? Can we get people you're not embarrassed to put on the field? You string together 2 or 3 drafts, you're a Super Bowl contender. That's what 2 or 3 drafts of quality talent acquisition mixed in with some key free agent signings, and you've got high-end quarterback play. You're competing for a championship. And I think the Cardinals, I know it's premature. I think Cardinals have gone 1 for 1. This is not a red shirt draft class. This is a draft class that, can you imagine where these guys are going to be this time next year? I mean, Paris is going to be knocking on the door for Pro Bowl votes. And then everybody else, like Michael Wilson's like, yeah, I've been a starter for a year. I'm ready to take the next step. Keitrell Clark, B.J. Ojulari, right? I mean, depending on when we see, Owen Papo and the Stills, the kid, the 7th rounder's been playing. Like, they are getting
Dermacado is their primary third down back.
That's now that I have an issue with, but yeah, everything else.
What's your big issue with that?
I don't see. I mean, he looks like a jack, like just a guy, and that's disrespectful to him. He's an undrafted kid, but I think there's a.
Would you rather them put like a Rondell Moore there and then?
And I just this we talked about it ad nauseum and during training camp. Like I didn't love the running back depth. They don't have a Chase Edmonds-esque type of compliment unless it is Rondell Moore. Dermacado is just too slow for me. Like, he's a little bit undersized compared to Keontae and James. Like, if you're going to be undersized, you're going to play that third down role. They clearly are trying to do that with him. You got to be able to outrun some people. And he just looks, trying to take the edge on some of these passes, he looks slow to me. And
I mean, yeah, Papa's the only guy that's not really contributing, and that's not us saying, that's not a knock or an indictment on him.
The high-end play they're getting from everybody else.
They're getting solid play there, and I think he was a guy that they envisioned as a project. He's somebody that projects to becoming, someone like a Kazir White. I mean, they're built similarly. They've got similar skill set. It's just going to take some time, and you got White right now playing some of the best football of his career. And you've got guys in front of you that I think are playing important roles in this defense, and especially down close. I mean, you can't have any breaks or busts as far as that goes. So Paris Johnson playing like a 6 overall pick. We talked to him today. I'll put some of the clips up on Twitter at PHNX_Cardinals in my own. But, he said one of his things about facing Micah Parsons last week is he was kind of upset that he didn't get more opportunities against Micah Parsons because they move him around. And you love to hear that. And he said like the biggest difference between the NFL and playing at Ohio State and the Big Ten is like, you don't get Western Kentucky. It's like you're facing week in and week out top tier talent, but at the same time, he doesn't feel like it's that much different than going up against like the really good D1 schools, like say the Michigans. And he hasn't seemed overwhelmed at any moment. And that's been echoed by his coaching staff and his teammates as well. So you got Paris Johnson playing at that level. B.J. Ojulari is being worked in as he gets healthier and healthier, anywhere between 10 to 20% of the snaps in that he's in the rotation. And then you've got Garrett Williams pretty much on the precipice of coming back. Michael Wilson, your top receiver. And then you've got John Gaines, unfortunately lost for the season. Papo, Tunes, the backup quarterback. Keitrell Clark, your 6th round pick. And then your 7th round pick, Dante Stills. And then Dermacado as an undrafted free agent. I mean, you've got contributions from your draft class and beyond from first-year players. I mean, got to love what you've seen from what Monty Austinfort's done so far.
If Paris Johnson Jr. puts Nick Bosa on his ass on Sunday at any point, I'm going to become emotional at BetMGM. Topic 64, $4.99. Garrett Williams is a dog. Trell and Williams will hit and tackle. I like them both. You got to tackle if you're a JG corner. Cardinals didn't tackle particularly well against Dallas too, so I think that's one area they're going to improve upon this Sunday. And of course, this Sunday, myself, Bo Brock, Britton Golden, the playmaker, Damon Dog behind the mic. We're going to be all at BetMGM. Come out for the watch party. One more plug for it. Again, premier watch parties you can't find anywhere else. You can't make it to the road game. Come and spend your day with us. Again, we're going to be there in the morning, sampling some appetizers, sampling some drink specials, and we're going to buckle up for some Arizona Cardinal football. Bo Brock, buckle up. We are off tomorrow. Again, keep it locked in. PHNX Sports is where you're going to get all your Arizona sports coverage. Right now, the Suns, white hot. The Diamondbacks, red hot en route to the postseason. How about your sweet baby Arizona Cardinals exceeding expectations here? In the meantime, like and subscribe wherever you find.
Hold on.
What?
We need to right one wrong here. Chase was asking you this earlier.
Okay,
Just one time, and I'm sure you'll do it more than that, but he just wants to be a friend of the program. Would you do that for him?
Chase, you are a true friend of the program. One time, my friend. Everybody's a friend. For 242 right here. Like
Bob,
this.
Come on, Bob.
Bob McManaman, a true treasure here in the Valley, as are all of you. Sincerely appreciate the support. We've had a banner week. It's always fun to celebrate a dub with my closest friends, confidants, allies, including Bo Brock there at the PHNX Sports headquarters. Follow him at Bo Brock. I'm at Johnny Venerable. Like this video. We're back to preview the big game on a Football Friday. Until then, be well. Peace, everybody.